315. This one's a good one. If you've tried to log into Facebook or Instagram today, you may have realized that you can't. They are actually down. WhatsApp Messenger, etc. It's a pretty big deal. Why would all of these things be down? That's going to be a fascinating story to cover. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to, for the main story of the day, talk about how Trump really wants his Twitter account back, and he can't seem to get it. I find it ironic that capitalism has basically said, look, as the owner of Twitter, they can make whatever decision they want. That is capitalist 101. But obviously, Trump is going to fight back, as he often does. Facebook falling their stock price, that is, after whistleblower speaks out against harms. We're going to cover that. YouTube banning anti-vaccine information, and 2 marketing pieces to cover today: how to avoid scams in SEO, and finally, how artificial intelligence can improve your pay-per-click ad efforts. Let's start with the main story of the day. Trump still really wants his Twitter account back permanently untweeted. Ex-President Donald Trump. This from nymag.com. All links to all articles are in the description. Trump has filed a lawsuit asking a federal judge to force Twitter to reinstate his account, marking yet another legal volley in the former president's quest to regain his major social media accounts after they were taken offline in the aftermath of the Capitol riot. So, the point of this is that Twitter and the like are going to constantly be accused of playing favorites. They are acting like governments. The government is often not the most beloved institution on planet Earth, and this is often because they have to make calls like this. Now that we have companies that are acting like governments, Twitter, Facebook, global multinational corporations, what we're realizing, or at least what I'm realizing, is that capitalism, whatever 3.0 version we find ourselves in now, is essentially saying, hey, look, we are going to give to these institutions with massive wealth the same sort of decision-making power that you would normally see a government. We have an ex-president that is unable to reach a large portion of his audience because of a capitalistic enterprise saying you can't do it. If you are a Democrat, you look at this sort of thing, and it's so funny to me because on the left, typically you have the narrative of, more of a, I don't know if it's anti-business, but the right is known for being more pro-business, more pro-free speech, that sort of stuff. On the right, you can make the censorship argument. On the left, you can say, well, Trump doesn't deserve his account, that sort of thing. But it's interesting how the talking points for each side flip, which is why I think it's so very important to think for yourself, to allow your mind to be free to explore all of the various ideas that are present in the universe, and understand that the foundation of everything you do on this planet, in this incarnation, should be love. And so find that love in your heart for people that may not share the same position as you. Try to see their perspective. So Dorsey and friends on the Twitter side, I get it. I mean, they're looking at it from the perspective of inciting violence, this sort of thing, banning him. And then from Trump's perspective, obviously, let me reach my audience. This is ridiculous. I'm sure Trump could find a million different examples of people doing far worse, yet he has the influence. And so for people in power, they have different rules given to them in the same way that, I have different rules for a 6-year-old than I do a 20-year-old. I'm not saying that the people in power are more mature, but obviously their influence is different. I guess you could make it like the rules for someone who owns a nuke are very different than the rules for someone who has a stick. I think that would be a good way of putting it. So Trump continues to fight. This is what he does. Among a litany of claims, according to the article in the new complaint, Trump's attorneys argued that Twitter had been, quote, coerced by members of the United States Congress into censoring him, and alleged that the company unfairly exercises a degree of power and control over political discourse in the country that is immeasurable, historically unprecedented, and profoundly dangerous to open democratic debate. So that's a good argument from the right, which is, you can't censor former presidents in this way and expect the democracy to function appropriately. And then, of course, the argument, which is typically an argument, again, you see from the right, is hey, it's a private company. They can do whatever they want. And then, of course, there's all the arguments about the fact that, he's inciting violence and that it's not ultimately against the terms of service of Twitter. The fight rages on. And for everyone who goes, Kellen, why don't you just take a stand? Why do you constantly have to see both perspectives? It's just how I am, man. I literally will switch the mouse from my left hand to my right hand throughout the day because I think balance is incredibly important. I don't think there's enough of it in this world. And I don't know why we have to choose a side. It's like when people go to a football game, I want to see a good game by and large. Does that make sense? I want to see a close game. Those are the most interesting games to me. If it's a blowout, kind of boring. So that's just how my particular personality works. Facebook is down along with Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, and Oculus VR. This is wild. If you just want to look at the amount of revenue that's being lost, like right now, we're not streaming to Facebook because it disconnected. It's not working. So Antagon Davis was live on CNBC, according to TheVerge.com, defending the company over a whistleblower's accusations and its handling of research data suggesting Instagram is harmful to teens. We'll talk about that later in the show. The company's entire network of services suddenly went offline. On Twitter, Facebook communications exec Andy Stone says, quote, "We're aware that some people are having trouble accessing our apps and products. We're working to get things back to normal as quickly as possible, and we apologize for the inconvenience." I mean, hello. This sort of thing is no joke. I actually experienced this 5xxx server error on Instagram.com. The main reason that this is so interesting to me is because all of them went down. This is what's fascinating. Isn't it? Wouldn't it make sense that a multi-billion-dollar company like this has safeguards against all of its technology going down at the same time? Why is it that Instagram and Facebook have gone down? They're completely different entities. I understand that they're owned by the same parent company, but for all of these things to simultaneously go down, I mean, the mind reels. I mean, there's a million different reasons. My first thought goes to an attack on the institution, because it seems like a coordinated assault. I don't understand other than them being owned by the same people, what's the connection between Messenger, WhatsApp, Oculus VR, Instagram, and Facebook? That's the only connection. So what would had to have gone down? If we see Google go down today, let's buckle down, because something funky is happening. We'll see. Is it an attack from a foreign adversary? Is it a hack from a 15-year-old who just got lucky? What exactly is going down? But this story ain't going anywhere. I'm very interested to see how this pans out. Facebook down, Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, and Oculus VR. Facebook falls after whistleblower speaks out against harms. This one from finance.yahoo.com. Facebook Inc. shares dropped to their lowest level since June on Monday after a whistleblower revealed herself for the first time and accused the social media giant of putting profit over safety. What safety is she referring to? Quote, "There were conflicts of interest between what was good for the public and what was good for Facebook," Frances Haugen told the news program 60 Minutes on Sunday evening. Facebook over and over again chose to optimize its own interests, like making money. I think the main critique here is misinformation, some of what was going on with U.S. lawmakers. So her lawyers apparently have filed 8 complaints against the Securities and Exchange Commission, according to the 60 Minutes segment, and Facebook shares down 4.5%. I feel like there has not been a single company in the history of ever that once it gets to a certain size like this does not go through these sorts of pains. Coca-Cola, for example, they're selling essentially a toxic product. So just the very baseline of them. Any tobacco company, yes. Oil companies, obviously. It's almost as if when the money gets so big, you have to make certain profit-based decisions. And you open yourself up to these sorts of critiques. And here's the thing, before people go, "Oh, how dare you defend these monstrous institutions." I'm not saying the critiques are invalid. I'm saying that once the body gets old, like 50-year-old body, 55-year-old, it starts to break down. I feel like companies that get to a certain size just tend to behave in this sort of way. and then critiques of them are legitimate. But anyway, Facebook in some hot water over essentially uh, putting profit above humanity and not stopping the flow of misinformation, because ultimately they didn't have much of a profit incentive to do that. They want to sell ads, man. At the end of the day, they are an ads platform. If you hear children in the background, that's because I have two of them. And yes, they are in the background. Welcome to 2021. TheOnion.com. What? TheOnion.com. Am I going to eat the onion? YouTube has announced that it will be removing any videos spreading misinformation about any approval vaccine. Yeah, I can't read an article from The Onion and expect it to be true. We're going to skip that one. That's so funny. How to avoid scams in SEO, entrepreneur.com. So, SEO sounds a bit like a scam on the surface. Google's a search engine designed to give people the best, most relevant, and most authoritative results possible. Yes, 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 we know. So, what exactly are the scams? I would put it this way. Scams are how do I put this? So if you don't understand SEO halfway decently, what's going to happen is you're going to walk it potentially into some traps that people have set for you. A good example of that would be, hey, we're going to write content for you. You never look at the content. This is obviously a huge mistake. People do things like randomized content for uniqueness, which is silly. You really got to read it. And if you're like most people, you're just not that interested in reading. I know, sounds crazy, right? But a lot of people will skim the internet. They'll take a look at the blogs. They'll skim them. We have some clients that read every possible, pixel of every letter in the whole thing. And then we have clients that don't care at all. And so it really depends. But essentially, you want to know the links that are being built. You go to the websites, you're going to be able to get a sense of whether or not those links are legitimate. So if you go to, say, a social media post is coming from Facebook, well, that's obviously a legitimate link. But I've seen links being built from like Chinese, Mandarin sort of websites, all this crazy sorts of things. Whenever anyone talks about reputation management, for example, there's a bunch of really garbage things that they can do. They'll, for example, tie low quality content or manipulative links to your brand name. You really want to know exactly what they're doing. It's like that scene from The Office Space. Like, what exactly would you say you do here? Here are red flags with SEO providers: big promises, cheap prices, non-native writers, unclear processes. So big promises, obviously, if anyone's like, we're going to rank you in the top 5 for this in this amount of time, that's a huge red flag. Believe it or not, cheap prices, $299 a month, $199 a month is a big red flag. Not good stuff. Non-native writers, I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, if I were to write in Spanish, even though I speak Spanish, I would mess it up. There would be things that I would say that don't sound normal. And so obviously that can be an issue. And there's a huge incentive for SEOs to hire people that are in other countries because obviously they're going to pay much less. Final article of the day: how artificial intelligence can improve your pay-per-click ad efforts. So it's impossible, according to Inc.com, to discuss modern marketing without talking about the latest trends and the increased use of artificial intelligence. AI is changing the paid advertising realm, according to McKinsey Global Institutes. It's predicted that AI and machine learning will collectively generate up to 2.6 trillion in value. All right. So big data, machine learning, and AI are all considered somewhat young concepts. Okay, we get it. So adjusting pay-per-click bids autonomously. So you can use AI to control your ads, and you can adjust your campaigns by making small changes to the code. In the long run, this makes your pay-per-click efforts more effective. One example is using AI to adjust your pay-per-click bids autonomously. By doing this, you won't bid too low for an ad. I love this. So bid adjustments based on AI, super smart. Improved retargeting, so you can use AI-powered analytics and call tracking software to understand the connection between leads gathered by your offline efforts and set campaigns, and in some cases, even your keywords, according to Inc.com. So retargeting, obviously, is someone comes to the website, you put a cookie on there, or they call you, and then you're hitting them up with certain ads. If you're using AI, you can maximize conversion rate by showing ads that convert at the highest levels. I'm reminded chess computers are by far better than any of our smartest humans. So let's recap for the day. Trump wants his Twitter account back. What do you think? Do you think they should give it back to him? Why or why not? Leave a comment, youtube.com/send it rising. If you're listening on the podcast and driving, don't leave a comment, folks on the road. Facebook is down along with Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, and Oculus VR. Is it a coordinated attack from a foreign adversary? Who knows? Is it just a bungle of someone within the organization? And why are all of these things down simultaneously? I have so many questions. Facebook falls after whistleblower speaks out against harms. Yes, there's more that Facebook could be doing, obviously. To what lengths will they go to try to get their stock price back up? YouTube bans anti-vaccine misinformation. That's from The Onion. I'm not going to bite the onion. How to avoid scams and SEO. Yeah, you got to know a thing or two about it. If you want me to help you, if you're thinking about hiring someone, I'd be happy to take a look at their processes. info@senditrising.com. Send me an email. Happy to audit any website or any marketing program. If you want that help, happy to do it for free. I know it sounds crazy. It seems like there's no value there, but there is a ton of value. If you want me to take a look, just shoot me an email, info@senditrising.com. Last but not least, artificial intelligence and pay-per-click. Just like chess on the chess computers. It's the future. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for swinging by the show today. Thank you for bearing with the sound of children in the background. #2021, #pandemic. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.